Hi, I'm Nigel Saunders, and we're back for part 2 of styling our little cedar spirit trees. In part 1, I styled this little cedar to look like the little cedar spirit tree that grows on the north shore of Lake Superior. The little cedar spirit tree that grows up north is also called the witch tree because it's so twisted and gnarly looking. Today I'll be styling the larger cedar tree, and I've created a playlist for this tree called the Little Cedar Spirit Tree. I'm going to style this cedar with more deadwood, so I'm going to create a playlist called the Witch's Tree for this one. I'm going to start the styling by studying the tree. So I'll rotate it around and have a good look at all the branches in the structure. I want my trunk to come up and then divide into two. So I'm looking for the thickest branch, so I'll have, that division. And it's quite high up, it's right here. So I'm going to remove all the branches below that division and then work on the upper structure. So here I go. I'm going to leave some stubs and then I'll decide if I want to keep them or not. So it's starting to clear out in here. So here's that branch. So I'm going to, there's kind of a double branch at the base here. I'm going to remove that. Now you can see that branch a little more clearly. So there's kind of my trunk line. I've got the lower half of the trunk cleared of branches now. So now I'm going to go into the upper half and get rid of the branches that I don't want there. I think the front of the tree will be somewhere in this direction to show that division of the two branches, or the trunk dividing into two. I do have a lot of back branches I have to remove here, so I'll do that. I have a lot of double branches, so instead of one branch coming out of the trunk, I have two coming out of the same spot. So I'm going to keep the best one and take the double one off, or the duplicate off. There's a lot of good choices for the front view of this tree. I want to reduce the height of the tree, so I have a good trunk line coming up here and another one here, and I have the main trunk going vertical here. So I'm going to remove that main vertical trunk. This trunk divides into three at this point, so by removing that vertical trunk I can shorten the tree and just keep two divisions coming off this main trunk line. So it's a pretty big step to reduce that leader down. So I'm just deciding where to do my cut. I could make it flush and makes a deadwood scar coming down here to make it look like the top had been ripped off in a storm. Or I could, take it off here and make it deadwood. I think I like the idea of ripping off in a storm. I think that look will look good. So I'm going to prune it right off here. And then we'll make a deadwood feature down the trunk line. There we go. I'm going to do some carving now in this area of the main trunk line, creating sort of a deadwood feature that looks like the top of the tree was ripped off in a storm. I'll be putting a lot of deadwood features on this tree. Make it look like it's had a really, really hard life. I probably could have ripped that branch off to make it look really authentic, but you don't get much control if you do that. You might ruin the entire tree. I'm going to use some pliers to pull up on this deadwood and try and get a convincing tear to the wood structure. So I'll just give it a pull like that. Do some more carving. I'm going to clean up the upper foliage now, getting it more compact before I start working on the trunk. I've made the foliage as compact as I can get it at this point in time. So next I'm going to work on some deadwood features on the trunk. Down on the lower trunk, I've removed some major branches in the past here, and I think I want to carve those. I can join these two up and kind of bring a deadwood feature. I even have one that I removed at the bottom down here, probably a root. So I can make a deadwood feature joining this scar to this one to this one. So I'll do that next, and I'm going to try and make it a bit of a spiral scar. Give it some nice character. Yeah, so I'm going to start up here. I want to join these two dead sections. So we'll carve up here. Like that. The witch tree does have a large dead section on the trunk. The roots on one side are dead, and so this will fit right in. Here's a shot of the carving so far. So I've started here, and I have a slight spiral, not too much, kind of going up the trunk of the tree there. So I'm working on reducing this section a bit. Wood's really tough, especially when it gets old and hard. Using my dental tool, I'm stripping all the bark off the dead branches now. When the bark's green, it comes off quite easily. It's only when it's old and dried on a dead branch that it's really hard to get off. I've got my deadwood section extending all the way up to these dead branches, so it's looking pretty good. All the upper branches here have a nice curve to them as they curve skyward, except for this one. This one could use a bit of wire just to adjust it so it's vertical at the end. I'll anchor my wire to this branch here. Like that. And then we'll come around. And then bring the wire up the trunk so we can position it vertical. It's going around all the branches here. And right out to the tip. Now I'll try and bend the branch to get a nice upward curve to it. That's looking pretty good there. This other branch could also use just a little bit of wire to get the tip vertical. With the wire on, I can now bend this tip vertical also.
Alright, okay, I guess we're just gonna go for it.
You just go for it.
He doesn't.
How's it going? Up you go. Look at you, just like a real squirrel.
First time in a tree.
First time in a tree.
Isn't that a tree?
And he's chewing on it.
Which isn't everything.
So the squirrel's doing really well outside. He's, hi. Hello. You coming to say hi to me, are you? You're supposed to be going wild. I think he is going to go wild. He's really enjoying the outdoors. Whoa, you be careful up there. Yeah, you be careful. Hello. Hi. Where are you going? What you doing? Chewing on there? Eh? Hi.
Many of my trees are grown using clip and grow, where I prune the tree back and then I let it grow again. And then I prune it back again and let it grow. And repeating this process over time gives you a really nice tree. For my witch's tree, I'll also be doing a lot of clip and grow on it, but I'll also be using an injure and heal process, where I injure the tree and then I let it heal. These areas of the tree with the deadwood, I'll let the tree heal itself so the live tissue will grow slowly over the wound and I'll get a really nice textured bark in that area. It'll take quite some time for this tree to heal itself. It might take 2 to 5 years before I re-injure it again and develop even more character to the trunk and branches. Here's a look at all the foliage that I removed off this tree. So we're going to have to regrow a lot of foliage to get the tree vigorous again and growing well. The next step for this tree, or trees if you count the little one, is to get it repotted and do a little bit of root pruning. I'll get the tree out of the pot. So here I go. Wow. Looks pretty good. A lot of good live roots. Looks really healthy. Okay, let's start combing the roots out. Okay, here I go. So I'll separate this cutting here. I'm probably going to use that in my avatar grove as another little tree in the background. This tree was a collected tree, the big tree here, and I did some initial root pruning on it when I did the first potting of it. I seem to remember I did a fairly severe root pruning actually. So it will be interesting to see what's happening with the roots in it. It hasn't been repotted in, I think, 3, maybe 4 years. Quite a long time. So it's definitely due. And again, I'm not really repotting just for health reasons. The tree would have grown quite well in this pot for another couple of years. But I'm repotting it to get the roots sorted out. I don't want to leave it too long and have it grow, you know, really wild, ugly roots. I want to kind of manage the roots as the tree develops. So you get a nice root system and a nice tree. So far the root system's looking pretty good on it. I can see a lot of roots that I've cut here that were pointing uphill. You know, I just kept the roots that were growing in a nice direction. Got some good radial roots there, which is always good. Lots of fine roots in here. I water all the cedars quite heavily. They like a lot of water. If they dry out, it could kill the roots and the tree could die. So definitely keep your cedars well watered. In this free draining soil mix, I don't think you can overwater one. So I'm starting to get this little cutting loose here. It'll be interesting to see the root system on the cutting. I'm ready to try and get this cutting out now. It's getting very loose in here. There we go. So there's the root system on it. You can see where I cut the cutting off down here. And it's grown a whole bunch of new roots. And it made it through this winter fine. So I'll just put that in some water until I get a chance to pot it. I'm making good progress with the roots, getting them combed out and untangled. I've got the roots all combed out, untangled. My next step is to wash the roots, and then we'll start some root pruning. The roots are washed, so I'll just give them another comb out. A lot of the matted sections of the roots get torn out as you're combing, which is good. You don't want it, the roots to be too congested. You want to be able to get your soil in around the roots. Next, I'll go around the perimeter, pruning off the longer roots, kind of balancing the root base so it grows out nice and evenly from all sides. And then I'll go in and clean any roots at the base of the tree. Clean those out. Eventually this will be placed over top of a rock, so I want to keep the area directly underneath the trunk free of any roots. That looks good there. You can see how it would sit over top of a rock. I'll be growing the tree in this mica training pot, so there's lots of room for the roots to grow. I've got my drainage screens in place, so I'll put in a base layer of soil in the pot. I'm going to check the tree for height. That looks pretty good right there, so I'll just put a small mound of soil in the bottom of the pot and work the tree down on it, and then I can fill it in. I'm going to make this the front of the tree for now. I kind of like it. It may change in future as those scars heal over. So I'm going to get out my root rake and comb the roots again, making sure they're all nice and radial in the pot here. So my roots are all in place. I can start filling in the soil. And then I'll start working the soil into the roots. I have the tree growing in the middle of the pot, just to give the roots, equal space on each side to grow. Now I'm going to come back and have a look at the tree and its position in the pot. I'm back here looking at the tree from the distance. I think it's looking good. I like that as a front for now. You can see sort of the deadwood as it sort of spirals up a bit. Not much, but it is sort of hidden at the base, and then it sort of exposes and comes around towards the front. You can see the curvature to all the branches. It's possible I could wire up that one branch a little more vertical, but I'm sure a shoot will grow up vertical from it, so there's no hurry. Yeah, I think all is looking good. I think I'll continue filling in the soil. I'll get the spoon and level the soil now. Tree's nice and firm in the pot. Time to give it some water. Okay, that should do it. I'll place some rocks on the surface to hold the tree in place until the roots get established in the pot. Put this one back here, I think. Maybe move this one around the front more. There. That's all the work I'll be doing today on my little cedar spirit tree and my witch tree. These trees are just beginning their life as a bonsai. I have a styling idea in mind for them now, so I'll be developing these trees over the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years to get them close to the style of the little cedar spirit trees. It's time now for today's update. I just picked up this brass pot from the secondhand store. It's really heavy. It's a cast pot. If anyone knows what this writing says on it, you could let me know. There's some there. I think it's the same thing on this side. Yeah, same thing each side. So it's got some dragons. It's quite nice. It'll be interesting to see this brass age over the years. I'm going to plant a tree in it. And it should get that nice, nice sort of greenish black color to it as it gets a weather or patina to it. So it'll be really interesting to see how it develops. Today's update is my dragon's tree bonsai. It's growing all new leaves since I cut all the old stems off shorter. The only thing I want to do today is just remove the old leaves and just keeping the new ones. Like that. So I'm going to let it grow probably all summer, and then I'll prune it back before I bring it back inside for the winter. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me here today in the Bonsai Zone.